I'm Alan Cohen, and this is the Quarantine Interviews. Today I have a spectacular guest for you. He's a New York City native keyboardist, singer, a songwriter, band leader. He's a 30-year veteran of blues, Americana, and roots music. He's played with many legends such as Odetta, David Johansen, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Bo Diddley, Ronnie Spector. He currently also plays with Popa Chubby, blues, Americana, and he's a leader of his own band. I'd like to introduce you now to Dave Keyes, good friend. Dave, how are you today?
Doing great, Al. Good to see you again, man.
Yeah, thanks. It's been quite a while, huh?
Yeah. It's great to reconnect, man.
Yeah, well, you know, where I reconnected with you or saw you, we'll talk about how we met in just a little bit. But what really got me back to thinking of you was you have this great song, a great tribute record out now that you wrote called "It's 7 O'Clock Somewhere," and it's a tribute to the essential workers during this COVID period. Could you give us a little bit about that, and we'll start there, and then we'll go to your history.
Sure. I mean, the song came about from what's been, I think that the tradition, if you want to call it that, started out in Italy, where I'm not sure if it was 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock over there, I started seeing these videos of because they got hit with the virus first. And in Italy being what it is, people were going on the balconies and on the rooftops and either singing or playing music or just in general, and it became a group thing. Someone would start a song on one balcony and then someone would chip in with another part, like a drum part or something on another balcony. So I started seeing this stuff on YouTube, and then it started happening in New York at 7 o'clock when the workers would come out of their shifts. And, I'm just blown away by the sacrifices that these people have made and putting their lives on the line in really just, incredibly dangerous situations, really, with just giving their all. So I decided to write a tune about it, and it's called 7 O'Clock Somewhere, and it basically acknowledges all the efforts of the hospital workers, police, the EMS, everybody. The chorus is, if you've out of context,
yeah.
But if you've got a horn, you got to blow it. If you've got a sign, come on and show it. Bang a gong, sing a song. Two hands clapping makes a joyous sound. Celebrate the love that's in the air. Dance on a roof like you haven't got a care. Wherever you are at 7 o'clock somewhere.
Oh, I got the chills, man. Dave, you just get
Great.
Oh, that's really beautiful. That's really beautiful. And for you to dedicate it to them. And we've all been so hard hit by this. And I know you're basically, I'm sure you'll tell us more, but a live performer playing with all these great acts. So I'm sure it really affected you personally for your business and your playing. Is that true?
Of course. I mean, I was on the road, I was out for a lot of last year, and the last tour I did was with Popa Chubby. We came back around the first week in February, and then we were still doing some local dates for the next month or so, and then everything just shut down, basically. That the week of St. Patrick's Day, I think the last gig was that Sunday, and that's it. And there's no, I mean, it's dribbling back in certain parts of the country. It's certainly nothing's happening in New York. Europe is shut down, particularly for American musicians.
Wow. You mean to fly over there, of course.
I was supposed to go over with Popa Chubby in October. And I mean, they're not letting Americans in at this point.
Right.
And it's not, that's not going to change. You're talking about doing venues in we would work with Chubby, 1,000 to 1,500 seat venues. That's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And the club situation here it's not You know, it'll come back eventually, very slowly, but you know, the economics of the situation of clubs operating at 30% capacity or 50% capacity, which is necessary because of the dangers involved. You know, but it just makes it difficult. So we have to do a little reorientation of the career and how we're going to make money and stuff like that.
Well, that is, you just said that. I mean, I know I've been in the music business for, 40 years or whatever.
Yeah.
6 months to a year, even in good circumstances, we have to readjust the way we do business.
Sure.
License music, how you charge, the recording studios, the technical aspects, buying new equipment, staying involved, different styles of music. So even through the good times, we have to change what we do. Sure. So I'm sure now all of a sudden you hit a brick wall, and a guy that's out doing dates, supporting his family on live dates, it has to have a great impact on you. So are you switching around now, or are you taking a little bit of a breather and then going to readjust yourself?
Well, it's been, I think the first 3 weeks or a month, that was the breather. And you kind of,
right.
We're all wondering how long is this going to last, blah, blah, blah. And it's clear that there's a fundamental change. So my orientation at this point has been to improve my skills in my home studio, basically. I work with Logic. I've spent a lot of time on YouTube tutorials, stuff like that, just getting my chops together, trying to get my mixing chops together. Because as a piano player, I have a certain advantage in terms of I could do stuff by myself. And I'm not talking about, making it sound like a band with MIDI.
Yeah.
As a solo piano player, I can do solo pieces, and there's some demand, for it, in terms of not jingles necessarily, but for underscoring music, things like that. So I look back at a lot of my old catalog. I've put out 6 CDs. So you try and figure out how you can, reutilize some things, making instrumental tracks out of things and, stuff like that. So all of the above, but I'm really just trying to re-educate myself and treating this as a one-time event in life where everything is stopping for 6 months or whatever. I'm going to be home, and let's use the time wisely and learn and become a better musician.
Try to make the downtime uptime. That's what I do,
That's it. Yeah.
And let people, I love you also have, it's funny. This interview, I started in the present. All my other interviews, I started in the past. Still in the present, and then we'll go to your past, because I'm sure our guests would really like to know about your history. But just the way it flowed. You also have a weekly show.
Right.
That you start. Since I'm in the present, let's just talk about that. Then we'll go back in time.
Yeah, and this is a perfect example of something, at least the way that it's happening, and it's happened very organically, is something that I think I'll get more use out of going forward than anything else. And that is, I decided about maybe 6 weeks ago to start doing, and it's also as part of giving back, and people have been, I do a lot of boogie woogie stuff. I do a lot of straight blues stuff, solo piano. When I go over to Europe with Papa Chubby, I open the shows as a solo act. Wow. And it's been great. I'm really thankful for him for helping put me in that situation, because it's really helped me expand my chops and kind of create a thing. So as a result of that, and being home all this time, I decided to kind of give something back. I have all these piano players that say to me, "Hey man, how do you do this? How do you do that? It's too fast what you do. I can't figure it out. Slow it down." So, and it took me a while to figure this out, and it took me a while to get my piano tuned, quite honestly, but I finally got that happening. And I basically do a 2-camera video where I'll do a performance of a song, usually of mine or an obscure blues tune. And then, so that's the first 5 minutes of the video. And then the next 10 minutes is me kind of going through the song in slow motion and explaining what I'm doing in the left hand, in the right hand. I have an overhead camera, which allows people to see what's going on. And I've done 3 of these. I put them out every Monday, and it comes out on Dave Keyes Music Facebook page. Mm-hmm. And it's also on YouTube, but it's called Dave Keyes' Keysland House of Blues and Boogie. And, you know, the first week I just did a straight, super fast boogie woogie. The second week I did a song where I sang something, but it was a Jimmy's Boogie, a tune called Jimmy's Boogie, which is about the great Chicago piano player named Jimmy Yancey. And he had a kind of a quintessential boogie pattern that was boom, 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 boom. Just showing people how to play that and different licks. And the one I just did was a slow blues, a slow minor blues tune of Robert Johnson's. So I'm trying to do something different every week, and the response has been fantastic.
I can imagine, yeah.
Love it, you know, and I feel like, and I'm not asking for donations or money, whatever, you know, I'm just putting it out there and let people take it, use it, have fun with it. Everybody's home, or a lot of people are home, and people have free time. Let people be, you know, expose themselves to new stuff. So that's it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And once again, that's why I saw, hey, there's Dave.
Right. Yeah.
And then when you did that, of course, you're such a showman. You had the hat, you had the costume on. You know, you're like a boogie woogie Elton John over there.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun, and people are digging it, you know. So,
man, I love it. Showbiz. So, boogie woogie, blues, roots, Americana. Tell us a little bit about your history, how you got into the music business. I mean, we don't have to go back to the first notes of Mary Had a Little Lamb, but, you know, how did you really get into piano playing and then, you know, your training to get you to where you are now?
Sure. Well, I'll go back all the way because I started when I was 7. Actually, and my first lessons, excuse me, were from a guy. You know, my mom found a teacher, and it was all by ear. So I did that for a couple of months, and then I got into classical, which I couldn't stand really.
Oh boy!
And I said, "Mom, I'm quitting. This is over." She found me a teacher who taught me the popular songs of the day. I think that I'll date myself here, but the first song I learned was "Downtown" by Petula Clark. So. That was it. And after that, it was off to the races, really. You know, I took lessons all through high school, and I had a great teacher when I was in high school who taught me how to improvise, basically. And, you know, I had started playing in bands probably when I was 13 or 14. We had I was always into Leon Russell. I've always been into Leon Russell. He was my guy. And, you know, we had a Mad Dogs and Englishmen band, you know, 14 people in my living room, which I'm forever grateful to my mom and dad for allowing me to do that on weekends. And it just went from there, you know, playing in different bands throughout high school, playing in symphonic band in high school, the jazz band in high school. And, you know, I picked up a trumpet, baritone, French horn along the way. And then I got out of high school. I went to, you know, college up in Boston, and I was in, you know, my parents were not into the idea of me being a musician really, but we worked it out, and I wanted to go to music school. They said no. I said, okay. I ended up being an English major, but I was playing in Boston all through college and started, you know, playing with blues stuff, and it just grew from there really.
Right. So you were an English major. That's intense. And you're in Boston, which is the home of, first of all, colleges, but yet Berklee College of Music and a lot of musicians up there. I mean, it was a great place to play in those clubs.
Right.
Very active music scene. That must have been in the 70s or so. 70s?
Yeah, 75. I got up there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it was a terrific music scene back over there. I mean, That's great. So an English major, but you're really playing. So what was like your first professional experience then? Well, you say played in those clubs, but where did you take it from there? From just a
Oh, yeah, I mean, playing in clubs, a place called In Square Men's Bar up there. I used to play Jonathan Swift's.
Yeah.
I was in a band in college that, we were doing, Grateful Dead and Allman Brothers and some funky stuff and some original stuff. So those were really my first professionals. But then I got out of college. One other thing I want to touch about, just because even though I was an English major, I took some cool stuff at college. One course that I took was with a guy named Jeff Titan, who I didn't really know it at the time, but he did a little gigs. He did some gigs with Son House. I think he did a gig with Muddy, who was a guitar player. But it was a course on ethnomusicology. And the course was, explaining how stuff came from Africa or whatever, but it also focused a lot on the importance of the church, the Black church, in American music. And one of the things that we would do, we would listen to sermons, in one case of C.L. Franklin, who was Aretha's dad. And you sort of would get this kind of cadence of gospel. And it really affected, and as I've done a bunch of gospel music over the years, it was something that I really used in a sort of, as just a presence in my life. So, what you study, you can, it's more it's the little things that you get out of these experiences, And I got out of college. I graduated from college. My first gig was with Herb Reed of the Platters, who was touring New England at that time.
Yeah. And
then I was with him that summer, 3-4 months, and some great gigs. Nate Nelson was in the band from the Flamingos. It was cool. And then after that, my first real gig, I would say, was with a guy named Sleepy LaBeef, who was a rockabilly artist up in Boston at that time. And Sleepy took me over to Europe. We were playing bull rings. He had gold records in Spain. I spoke Spanish. It was a great experience. But the great thing about it was, before Sleepy would come out, I would do 3 or 4 songs with the band as a trio. And that was really where I started, getting my chops together as a band leader and all else. So did that. I was with Sleepy for about a year, and then I moved to New York.
Wow, intense. That's great. Right. So, so now you're starting to do some of these intros, because I do remember you mentioned one named Leon Russell. So Leon Russell does have that, a New Orleans type of sound, or that you said Americana. What about Dr. John? Was he an influence of you to you?
Absolutely.
What type of people did that?
Dr. John, Leon Russell, as piano players, and Jerry Lee Lewis, really, and Professor Longhair. That's really my Mount Rushmore. Leon, to me, he brought everything together: gospel, country, blues, rock and roll. And as somebody that's done advertising music, Al, I don't know if you know, but Leon, when he first left Tulsa and he went out to L.A., he was a jingle writer.
Yeah.
That's how he started his career out there.
Wrote this Masquerade too.
Yeah, right.
Biggest hit that took that's into the next level.
Yeah, and Leon was a great songwriter.
Yeah.
So Leon for me was big. Mac was massive. When I came to the city, I was working at the Lone Star Cafe downtown a lot.
Sure.
He'd open up for Mac all the time, and Mac was always around. He was just a guy, that you could talk to all the time, and you could, he was a big presence too. Absolutely.
That's terrific. Wow. So that's where you really got that innate style of the Americana and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Did you ever work with them or meet them?
I opened up for Leon a couple of times. He was a sort of a reclusive guy. Yeah. The first time I opened for him, and I was just solo. I was just opening for him solo. First time I didn't really get to talk to him. Second time I went up to his band leader. I said, look, man, Leon is my hero, man. Any way I could, say hello to him and, take a picture, whatever. And he said, sure, here's what we'll do. Because Leon, he's in the bus. He steps off the bus. He goes straight to the stage. No dressing room, no nothing. That's it. You have basically a 30-second window to talk to Leon. So Leon gets off the bus, and the guy says, hey, here's this guy, Dave. Man, he's opened up for us a couple of times. Just want to take a picture. So Leon looks at me, and I look at Leon, and I extend my hand, and I was just like speechless, and I just said, thanks. and he just looks, and he looks at me, and he goes, and he's got his, his aviator glasses on. You can't see what's in his big hat, big beard, all covered up, and he just looks at me and goes, yeah. and the essence was he had this aroma of bourbon and aftershave that I'll never forget, man. But that was it. But so I did meet him, obviously, and I met, Jerry Lee too, actually. Which was cool. Yeah, a lot of these guys I opened up for at the Lone Star.
Yeah. Lone Star was one of the big clubs in town that played blues, country, and all that stuff.
Everything, man.
Yeah, I mean, that closed down quite a while ago, though.
Closed down in 90, but but from 80, like, when I came back to the city in 81. So 80 to 90, I was working there a lot.
Wow.
Different bands, my own band, all kinds of situations. And it was just like a great melting pot,
Wow, that's terrific. All right, so let's get, we actually met quite a while back. I think in the 90s, and we did Bo Diddley together. I got on the Bo Diddley gig, and there's Dave Keyes just tinkling those keys. And yes, on those gigs, you did open with a couple of songs.
Yeah.
Also,
Right. That's right, man.
Hard doing. So we met with Bo Diddley back in, I guess, the early 90s. I think the band leader was Debbie Hastings.
Debbie, as always, yep.
Debbie, as always. I think I thought I should interview her, too. So
she's got some great stories. Yeah.
She's very busy also.
Yeah.
So you met Bo. How did you get the Bo gig at the time?
That's a good question. I think John Margolis was doing the gig.
John, yeah.
And I'm not quite sure. I had met probably, I had met Debbie when she first came to the city from Madison, Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah.
And I have a feeling maybe she recommended me, and I knew Margot a little bit, who was Bo's manager. And
Margot Lewis.
Margot Lewis, yeah, sure. And so I guess that was how, the first time I think I couldn't do it, and then they called me again, and then I started doing it. And Bo was great, man, and the band was fun. We had, I know you talked about this with Tommy Major, who was the drummer on the gig, but, Bo uses pickup guys a lot, but for the big gigs, he would use his band, so we would do the festivals, we would do the Europe stuff, and we had some wild stories, man.
A lot of the rib festivals. Hey, we're and then you're in your not dressing room, is on wherever was the hotel, and they bring in trays of ribs and coleslaw and ribs from each different vendor. So
place, man. Yeah, I know.
Ribs.
Yeah, Bo was great though. Bo was a trip, and he was like a little kid, man. He was his gadgets and his enthusiasm.
Well, because he was also an inventor.
He was.
It was always tinkling with something. Of course, he came up with the electronics in his guitar.
Sure.
He's one of really the first ones really doing that stuff. I mean, right? I mean, with the electronics and the guitar. And I guess he gets a lot of credit for it in general, but I think a lot of the younger people really don't know that about him.
No, they don't.
They just see, a rectangle guitar, or something like that. But he was really an inventor besides being, a legend, blues rock and roll player and the founder, of course, of the Bo Diddley beat.
That's it, yeah.
So, hey, Al, everybody stole my beat. I would always go, Bo, you can't copyright a beat, right? So we had a great experience, Dave. Now that it's all flashing back to me.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we actually went to Spain together. We played a great festival in Spain,
yep.
and Yeah, it was great. On the bill, I believe it was Chuck Berry, and Chuck. I remember after we played, Chuck came on and he ended up kicking the cameraman or something crazy like that. And then you brought up a story about on the plane or something. What?
Yep, the Wicked Picket. Yeah, I mean it was Dylan was on the bill.
Yeah.
Robert Plant also.
Hey, let me give you 1 second of Robert Plant because. Yeah. We got off the bus. We got to the hotel. I look up right at the front desk is Robert Plant. So here's my 1 minute of fame. I go up to Robert. I said, "Hi, Robert. I'm Al." He goes, "Hi, I'm Robert." And
That's cool, man.
Robert Plant.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is, the perks of those kind of gigs. You meet some of them. Some of them might, mature into gigs or relationships.
Sure.
There was, like I said, Chuck Berry. So a lot of people we play with end up playing with Chuck. And a lot of exchange musicians in the dressing rooms, of course, it was Chuck. We met Wilson. On the bus was Eric Burden at the time.
Right.
He was hidden in the back with one of his ladies, So, and I remember the last thing on this gig was we were only there a day or two. We got there, we probably had the night and then played, and then the day after we had to leave. But Spain is crazy. I think we first went out at 12 a.m. 12 at night. That's when the clubs opened.
Sure, of course.
We got back at 5 in the morning, and Margot and Debbie go, "Hey, we got to get to the plane," and we went straight from the club to the plane. So
that was a great couple of days, man.
Yeah,
La Coruña, Spain. It was.
Yeah. So how long did you actually play with Bo? I mean, quite a few years.
Yeah, well, I started, I was doing Smokey Joe's Cafe, which was the Broadway show.
So you did a bunch of Broadway shows too.
Yep. I was the associate conductor on that, and I was with it from the beginning pretty much. And so I did that from, I think, 93 until about 2000. And that's kind of, so I did Bo probably till about, I'm going to say 96, 97, and then it just got hard for me to get away on some of the gigs. Sure. So Margot started doing it. This guy Al Weissman was doing the gig for a while, I think, and but it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Right. So you brought up Broadway. I didn't know as much of you as a Broadway guy, but now I'm remembering that you did Smokey Joe's. Before we do that, let's leave off on some of these live gigs. You play with the other Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, Ronnie Spector, and I also play with Ronnie many gigs with her at the Garden.
Right. Yeah.
All over the world with her. So what was your experience with Ronnie, who's also one of the all-time female legend rock and roll singers from way back then?
Yeah. Well, Ronnie's been great. I've been with her for about 10 years. She doesn't work that much anymore, but when we do work, the gigs are terrific. We were in the UK in December. And she usually does a lot of stuff in December in conjunction with her Christmas albums and things like that.
Right. Yes.
And the gigs really, I mean, you have very, they were just the moments with Ronnie. There's a lot of downtime. The band is great. So great bunch of cats and guys and ladies. And it's just a lot of fun on the bus and this and that. But, Ronnie, people have these moments with Ronnie, Odetta was the same way also, who I worked with, where people are just brought to tears because the music brings them back to a moment in their lives when maybe life was simpler, it was romantic, it was something special. And we had a couple of those moments in this UK tour. And it's literally, you look out in the audience and people are just crying, and that's, to me, that's, those things happen. It's like,
that's the epitome of playing live, right? The connection with your audience.
Yeah. So that's, and not all the gigs are like that, obviously, but that's what a lot of the gigs are like with Ronnie. And she sounds incredible now.
Sure.
For whatever reason. I mean, she doesn't go out. She doesn't hang out. She's very, somewhat reclusive, and her voice has benefited from all that. She doesn't talk that much to people after gigs, but her voice sounds great. She sounds great.
Perfect.
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So,
Well, like you said, a moment in time when she came out with, of course, the hit song that you
right.
played, of course, is "Be My Baby."
Sure,
Right?
sure.
And I had chills when you just brought that up because
Yeah,
it was a more innocent time. Of course, there was a lot of protests going on, and the whole culture was the
sure.
60s and 70s when she was really involved, and her being really one of the first, black female rock and rollers.
Sure, of course. Yeah.
So it is an experience. I don't know. Did we do the? Well, I know I played with her a Christmas show at the Bottom Line.
Right. Yeah, I never did those,
Did,
unfortunately.
did you do one of the cruises?
I've done cruises, but it was after you. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, we did a cruise last year. Yeah.
and it was on a small boat, and everybody's getting sick, and everybody's throwing up. Ronnie stayed the whole week. I think we played one or two shows,
Right. Yeah.
Friday and Saturday night. The rest of the week, you're just sitting there. And, I remember her coming out to do Be My Baby, and it was a small boat, so it was rocky.
Yep.
And I just saw her flying across, Be My Baby. She was just flying across. Right after the gig, she went back in the room,
Yeah. Yeah.
with the other band, there was Jim Satin was on that gig.
Yeah. Sure.
So there was two of us guitars. So yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, these are legends. Bo Diddley, Ronnie, of course, Odetta, and all that. So let's go to Broadway. I didn't realize. Now that you brought it up, I do remember that you were. On Smokey Joe's.
Yeah. No,
I
yeah.
played so much Broadway. I mean, really, I call myself a Broadway
Yeah, I
baby.
know you did. Yeah. Yeah.
So give us some insight on your Broadway stuff and how that was.
Well, the Broadway stuff was great. I mean, I was really lucky. I just kind of fell into it sort of. The quick story is John Miller, who great music coordinator for many of the shows. He saw Darlene Love's show. I was playing with Darlene at the time. That was the Bottom Line, and I don't know when it was, but we just talked briefly for a minute, and then I don't remember what the chronology was exactly, but about 6 months later or something, he called me up and he said, "Would you be interested in doing the thing with Lieber and Stoller?" And at that time, it was pre-workshop. It was actually the first one was a real workshop, and then after that they replaced everybody, and I got a call and they said, would you be involved? Would you be interested in this again? I said sure, and it was very unofficial, and it was just like I went in. I worked for 2 weeks with this director, and the weather was like blizzard every day, and I was driving into the city. I was making no money. It was terrible, and then eventually 3-4 months later they did a workshop, and then we did an out-of-town run in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And the music director ended up leaving in midstream, and I kind of took over. And then we went to LA, and there was a very talented MD named Louis St. Louis came in.
Yes.
And did a bunch of work on the show. Jerry Zaks was brought in as the director, and we had a great run in LA, and then we ran for 6 years on Broadway.
Right, 6 years.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think my buddy Steve Margoshes didn't.
Yeah, Steve was
Margoshes, a great orchestrator.
Yeah, he was the orchestrator.
I did Grease on Broadway.
Yeah, okay.
And he was the orchestrator of that. Sure, and then I did another show for him, which was Fame on Broadway.
Right, sure.
Because he wrote a lot of that music.
Absolutely, yeah. I spent a lot of nights with Steve. Yeah.
So you did that for 6 years. Did you play many other shows, or really you were focused on that?
Well, I just did that show at that time, and that was great band. It was great music. It was just. And
who was the band? You remember the guitarist, maybe? Or
Drew Zing.
Oh, Drew Zing, sure.
Yeah, Drew Zing, Frank Canino on bass, Brian Brake on drums, who was just an incredible drummer.
Yeah.
Chris Emmenizer on sax, Frank Pagano on percussion. It's a great band.
Wow, yeah, that's the real
Yeah,
stuff.
we were playing great music every night. The show was a 2, we were out of there within 2 hours and 10 minutes with an intermission. It was
And
great.
that's all the music you grew up on anyway.
It was great. Yeah, it was great stuff. And got a chance to spend a lot of, when we were in rehearsal mode, spending a lot of time with Mike, Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller, which was fantastic. And
All-time legend songwriter, on the Brill Building, right?
Yeah. So it was great. The whole experience was great. After that, I did a couple of other shows that didn't last very long. Urban Cowboy.
Oh yeah, sure.
Wind and Fire show called Hot Feet.
Yes.
Great musically, but it was a quick in and out. I really got spoiled by Smokies because we had our first experience and we ran for 6 years.
Right. It's funny when you're doing Broadway. Like I said, I did so much Broadway. When you're doing Broadway and you're in the band and you got the show, you're like on top of the world. First of all, it pays really well.
Great.
It's the best gig in town besides maybe the Letterman show or one of those, and that's the other side. But a lot of those great musicians that were studio musicians, I also sub for, say, David Spinoza,
right,
who all-time great, legendary studio musician. They were happy to get Broadway shows.
Sure.
As the industry changed.
Yeah.
As it changed from the live thing and the session musician to having a full-time Broadway show.
Sure. As the business changed, guys like Spinoza, I played Hairspray a lot.
Yes, of course.
And Spinoza, that was Spinoza's share at first. Yes. And, but that's what happened when that turnaround started to happen, I don't know, late 90s or whatever, where, the studio stuff really dried up.
Yes.
And those cats started getting into Broadway.
Right. And they became the first calls. And a lot of us that were the Broadway calls, we started losing the calls. Because, I got David Spinoza. Why do I need Alan Cohen? But my background was all Broadway because that was the first thing I got out of when I got out of Berkeley. So you brought up Hairspray, and that was, of course, written the music by an old friend of mine that I worked many times, Mark Shaman.
Sure.
Mark, who wrote Hairspray and, who knows how many other shows. Great, composer, writer. And I remember Mark when we were playing like clubs and, for all these Broadway singers, and he could play anything at any time and help them write a song on the spot. Let's sing a song about, whatever, the liquid detergent. He'll have a song about that. Let's sing a song about it.
But that's the way we were brought up, Al. I mean, not everybody, but we're musicians in the sense that it's not about pressing a button on a computer. It's a more, you went to school. I mean, but also we worked. We worked in the clubs and we honed our chops over a long period of time, and I think there's something to be said for that.
So you were really in the trenches.
We're in the trenches, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Right. All right. So you played the Broadway scene for a while, and then like you say, you didn't do as many shows after. You did a few that didn't really run. So where did the career take you at that point then? Back the club scene?
Yeah, it was the career kind of took me sort of more to live work eventually. Over a long period of time. I was still subbing a lot on Broadway, and I've still, to this day, I've been working for 5 years on a musical about Alan Freed called Rock and Roll Man. We were supposed to.
Hey, get me on the gig. Get me on the gig.
You got to talk to Gary Cupper.
Okay.
But we did, we were supposed to be in rehearsal right now. We were doing an off-Broadway run. So that's, things change, but so I've still got my hand in it, but, and I'm music director on that. So it's cool. It's going to be great when it happens. I just hope it happens one of these days. But things change, and I started getting into more of my own stuff. I was going over Europe a lot with my own band. I started working a lot more with Popa Chubby, Ronnie Sting. I was working with Odetta a lot from say 2005 to about 2008 when she passed. Mm-hmm. And 2009,
right?
And just different stuff. And then I got into actually TV music. In 2000, one, I think it was, I was the band leader for a show that was on NBC called the Ainsley Harriet Show. Unfortunately, we were on NBC, but we were on opposite rows, so we were from the beginning.
Oh boy!
I made some connections through that in terms of library music, and that went on for about 10 years. You know, just writing seemingly very inconsequential little pieces, underbelly stuff. Excuse me, but that worked out well financially.
Right, because obviously that's all royalty based, and I like the royalty based business. You know, I mean, live music, you have the thrill of the live, but there's nothing like royalty based, because obviously, hey, I just got a notice on my phone, something's playing right now on somewhere in you know, who knows what country. Right, so you can build up quite a catalog that does continue to pay royalties for years. I know I have many shows, you know, since way back then, that you get a few pennies, but if you have, you know, 10, you have 100, you have 1,000 tracks that are playing, you can still make a royalty many years later. And that kind of became my focus after a while, because I decided I couldn't work enough hours running studios. I mean, you could only work, you know, you do 10, 12, 14-hour sessions, still get an hourly wage, but you do, like you said, you know, library music and TV music, it pays royalties. You still could pay forever. So it's like a pension in a way. And that brings me to the pension of the union, because playing on Broadway, when you were on Broadway, obviously you build up a nice pension, you know. Lucky for the union does stand behind us, but they're also having trouble with their pension, you know, where they might be cutting some of it. And, you know, so it's tough as a musician. You really have to have, I find, many revenue streams to stay alive. And as the industry changes, and from your terrific stories, how you were able to, you know, maneuver your way from one side to the other, from one artist to another.
Right. I mean, somebody told me a long time ago, never turn down a gig, you know, and, you know, you learn a lot by doing that. It forces you out of your comfort zone. You know, I never knew I was going to do Broadway, or when somebody approached me on it. But you keep an open mind about stuff, and it's particularly now, you know, because the live gigs just are not there. I mean, when we were cutting our teeth out between Broadway, you know, I could work in you know, when I came into the city in the early '80s, you could, I could work. There were months I would go without a night off. Yeah. And so what if I was only making $60, $70 a night? My rent was only $250.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
I did 4 gigs. I was set. You know.
Yeah, happy guy.
Yeah, so
and you're doing them back to back. You probably, after the show, after Smokey Joe's, you and the boys went out to play a gig, I'm sure.
Of course,
right? And then doing some recording sessions in the daytime as well.
Right. So you know, there's slices. So now there's not that live work. It's just not there anymore. So, but you got to find the slices of the pie, and you put enough pieces together, and you end up with a piece of the pie. You know,
that's great. What terrific stories. So as we wrap this up, I know like we're going back now to present. It's 7 o'clock somewhere. Quarantine. We are starting to get out of it slowly. I start to see some bands are playing on the sidewalk for the shop. Could you just give us a little bit? I mean, you gave us a lot at the beginning, but a little bit. You know, a little inspiration, words of wisdom, or something for our guests, you know, to close us out.
Sure. I mean, I think you said it also. I don't know if it was when we were talking before, but downtime, you make it uptime. You know, this is a period in life where hopefully we will never experience anything like this again. You know, I mean, other than wartime, and that's not really a fair analogy, so let's forget I said that. You know, I'm just trying to use the time to be the best I can at what I do. And it doesn't matter if I'm out on the street, the way I'm relating to people, with masks always. I'm big on the masks and the social distancing, because where I'm in New York State, you know, we shut it down, and it hurts, but you know, I'm an emphatic mask guy. You know, so
Why did you wear the mask today? I might catch something.
well, if you catch it through the computer, it would be like, you know, immaculate conception, Al. So let me know, okay?
That's a little extra level.
So, but I'm just, you know, these are tough times, and we'll get through it. We've gotten through things before, but I think we've just got to use this time to help ourselves grow in the best possible way.
Well, that's terrific. And of course, like you said, being flexible and changing with all your styles. But you really have a unique style of your own.
Thank you, Al.
You know, and that was always the thing. When you knew Dave Keyes was on the gig, and one of these, Bo, Ronnie, you know, all these, you knew you were safe.
Same feeling about you, Al.
No, really. I mean it so much, Dave. You were always an inspiration. First of all, I want to say an inspiration to play with, because you had that deep root sound, blues, Americana, but you really you owned it. So you came from a different school in a way, but then when you develop that for yourself, you really own it. You know, and of course, you know, by being the band leader and playing those couple of numbers up front, you warmed up that act too. So they love it. You start them, you get the crowd moving, excited, and then that act comes out and they're already up here. Different than if they came out by themselves.
Right.
So
Agreed.
Yeah, so you do those 3 tunes, you really set it, and you know, you're just a pleasure to be with, to play with. It's such a happy sound, even if you're playing a minor blues. But no, it's really emotional and a terrific sound. And before I sign off my thing, just tell us again about your show, so that people could watch you and learn from what you're doing again. That was an hour ago.
Sure. It's Dave Keyes, Keysland House of Blues and Boogie. Oh, yeah. I put out new videos every Monday. If you forget the name, you can see it. Dave Keyes Music is my Facebook page, and www.davekeyes.com is the website. But I've got a lot of videos. I keep putting stuff up. You know, also, let me just say, if you're a songwriter, write like crazy. Take the time to write, because that's your catalog. And that's something that you can always use. Doesn't matter if it's 20 years, 30 years, 40 years from now. People are always looking for music. And you know this, Al, better than anyone.
Yeah. You know, I agree. And, I also teach music business. I tell everybody exactly that.
Yeah.
Every idea you have is a great idea. It may not come to fruition now, but I've had tracks that I wrote, 20, 30 years ago that a music supervisor says, that's the perfect track now. Yeah. Because I need something that invokes maybe an older style, an older technology style. So everything and catalog it.
Yeah.
Catalog it too.
Yeah.
So that's how my music library started. I said, everything I got so much.
Right.
Catalog it, describe it, put it into genres, tempos, this and that, so you could find it easily, and everything will work out. And then you build, like you just said, a terrific catalog, which I know you do. So once again, Dave, I want to thank you so much for this interview. I'm sure our audience is going to love it. Look for Dave Keyes. Yeah, Keysland House of Music and Boogie, or whatever you call it.
Man. That's it.
But it is such a pleasure to see it. So
great, glad great to talk to you. Thanks for the opportunity to say a few words, man. Great to see you. All right.
So once again, terrific interview with Dave Keyes, keyboard phenomenon. I didn't even ask him how he got the name Keyes, but I would imagine it's in his blood. So.
Because Keyes-Keyboardist.
I didn't think of that one. All right. So once again, this is an interview with Dave Keyes, great pianist. Please look him up. My name is Alan Cohen, and this is the Quarantine Interviews. Thank you.